Miami, Florida, May 11, 1981. Cedars of Lebanon Hospital, room 318. 11:32 a.m. Bob Marley lay in a hospital bed, his once powerful body now weighing barely 82 pounds. The legendary dreadlocks that had crowned the king of reggae now lay thin and brittle against the white pillow. His skin, once radiant with life and purpose, had taken on an ashen pallor. If you love discovering the untold stories behind music history's most incredible moments, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell because we uncover the hidden gems that shape the legends we know today. Cancer had ravaged Bob's body, spreading from a seemingly innocent spot under his toenail to his lungs, liver, and finally his brain. The doctors had tried everything: alternative treatments in Germany, experimental therapies, prayer. Nothing had worked. Now, at 36 years old, the man who had given hope to millions was facing his own mortality. Sitting beside the bed was 16-year-old David Robert Nesta Marley, known to the world as Ziggy. He held his father's frail hand, trying to reconcile the skeletal figure before him with the vibrant, powerful man who had raised him. Ziggy had been watching his father die for months, but nothing could have prepared him for this moment. The moment when Bob opened his eyes, looked at his son with startling clarity, and spoke words that would echo through Ziggy's life forever. Words that would define not just Bob Marley's final legacy, but the very essence of what he had learned about life itself. Life is more than gold and silver. 7 words. That's all Bob had left to give. But those 7 words contained a lifetime of wisdom, regret, and love from a father who had learned the hardest lesson too late. The journey to room 3118. To understand the weight of those final words, you need to understand Bob Marley's journey, not just as a musician, but as a man wrestling with the cost of his calling. Born in 1945 in rural Jamaica, Bob grew up in poverty. His white father, Norval Marley, abandoned him and his teenage mother, Cedella, when Bob was barely walking. Bob spent his childhood caught between worlds, too light for some, too dark for others, belonging fully to neither. But music became his sanctuary. In the government yards of Trenchtown, Bob found his voice, his purpose, his calling. By 1963, at just 18, he formed the Wailers with his friends Peter Tosh and Bunny Livingston. Their first single, Simmer Down, became a hit in Jamaica. Bob thought he'd made it, thought success had arrived. He was wrong. Success in Jamaica meant little to the outside world. Bob was still poor, still struggling, still unknown beyond the Caribbean. But he kept pushing, kept believing, kept sacrificing for the music. In 1966, he married Rita Anderson, a woman who would stand by him through decades of struggle and triumph. Their first child, David, nicknamed Ziggy, was born in 1968. Bob loved his children fiercely, but he was often absent, chasing the music that he believed could change the world. The breakthrough came in the 1970s. The Wailers signed with Island Records, releasing Catch a Fire in 1973. The world began to pay attention. Album after album followed: Burnin', Natty Dread, Rastaman Vibration, Exodus, each one spreading Bob's message of love, unity, and resistance to oppression. Bob became more than a musician. He became a prophet, a voice for the voiceless, a symbol of hope for the oppressed everywhere. He toured the world, playing for thousands, then tens of thousands. The money followed, not vast riches, but enough to provide for his family, enough to prove he'd succeeded. But Bob never forgot where he came from. He never forgot the suffering he'd witnessed, the poverty he'd escaped. The music wasn't about money for him. It was about the message, and he was willing to sacrifice everything for that message. The first warning. In 1977, Bob discovered a dark spot under his right big toe. It seemed minor, the result of a soccer injury perhaps. But when doctors examined it, they found something terrifying: malignant melanoma, a rare and aggressive form of cancer. The treatment was clear: Immediate amputation of the toe to prevent the cancer from spreading. Bob refused. In Rastafarian belief, the body is sacred, whole. To cut away part of yourself was to violate that spiritual principle. Besides, Bob had concerts scheduled, albums to record, a message to spread. He couldn't let his fans down for something as small as a toe. The doctors were adamant. Without treatment, this will kill you. Bob chose faith over medicine, mission over caution. He chose to keep touring, keep recording, keep giving everything to his music. For 3 years, Bob ignored the cancer growing inside his body. He performed when exhausted, recorded when weak, traveled when he should have been resting. He gave everything to the music, believing he could outlast the disease through sheer force of will and faith. The collapse. By 1980, Bob was running on empty. The Uprising tour pushed his failing body to its limits. Show after show, his energy waning but his spirit refusing to quit. In September 1980, during a performance in Pittsburgh, the inevitable happened. Bob collapsed on stage. The tour was immediately canceled. Finally admitting he needed help, Bob flew to Germany to seek treatment from Dr. Joseph Issels, who offered alternative cancer therapies. For months, Bob underwent experimental treatments. His hair fell out. His weight plummeted. But he kept hoping, kept fighting. By April 1981, the truth was undeniable. The treatments weren't working. The cancer had spread to Bob's brain. He was dying. Bob wanted to return to Jamaica, to die in his homeland, surrounded by the people and places that had shaped him. But his body was too weak for the journey. The plane carrying him home had to make an emergency landing in Miami. Bob was rushed to Cedars of Lebanon Hospital, where doctors could only make him comfortable. The family was called. Rita flew in from Jamaica. The children came from wherever they were scattered. Bob's mother, Cedella, arrived heartbroken, watching her son, her baby, die. The final conversation. For days, Bob drifted in and out of consciousness. Sometimes he seemed peaceful, speaking softly about Jah and going home. Other times the pain was visible, though he refused strong painkillers that would cloud his mind. He wanted to be present, even in death. He wanted to see his family, to say goodbye properly. Ziggy arrived on the morning of May 11th. Walking into room 318, he barely recognized the man in the bed. This couldn't be his father. His father was strong, vibrant, larger than life. This man looked like a shadow. But when Bob opened his eyes and saw Ziggy, that famous smile appeared. Weaker now, but still warm, still full of love. "My firstborn," Bob whispered, his voice barely audible. Ziggy sat beside the bed and took his father's hand. It felt so small, so fragile. "Dad, how are you feeling?" Bob's breathing was labored. "I'm going home, Ziggy. Going to be with Jah." Tears filled Ziggy's eyes. He'd known this moment was coming, but hearing his father say it made it real, final. Bob squeezed Ziggy's hand with what little strength remained. "Don't cry for me, son. I've lived a good life. I've done what I came here to do." "But Dad, you're only 36. You had so much more to give the world." Bob shook his head slightly. "It's not about how long you live, Ziggy. It's about how fully you live. I've been true to the music, true to the message, true to Jah. That's what matters." They sat in silence, father and son, as Miami bustled with life outside the hospital window. Cars honking, people rushing, the world moving forward. But in room 318, time had stopped. Bob spoke again, his voice gaining strength as if he was gathering energy for something important. "Ziggy, I need to tell you something." Ziggy leaned closer. "I'm listening, Dad." Bob looked directly into his son's eyes with the same intensity he'd brought to his music. "You're going to carry this forward, you and your brothers and sisters. The music doesn't die with me. It lives through you." "Dad, I don't know if I can. I'm not you." "You don't need to be me," Bob said. "You need to be you. But remember what this is really about. It's not about fame. It's not about success. It's about truth, about love, about lifting people up. Bob's breathing became more difficult, but he continued. I've made mistakes, Ziggy. I wasn't always there for you children. I was chasing the music, chasing the mission. I thought I had time. I thought I could make it up later. You're here now, Dad. We love you. Bob's eyes filled with tears. I know, and I'm grateful, but my time is ending, and yours is beginning. So I need you to listen carefully. Ziggy squeezed his father's hand. I'm listening. Bob took a deep, difficult breath, then spoke the words that would become his final gift to his son. Life is more than gold and silver. Ziggy waited for more, but Bob simply looked at him, letting those words settle between them. At first, Ziggy didn't fully understand. It seemed almost too simple, but as Bob held his gaze, the meaning began to unfold. His father wasn't just making a statement, he was sharing a profound realization. Bob Marley had spent his life creating music that touched millions. He'd achieved fame, earned money, gained influence. He could have stopped years earlier, focused on his health, spent more time with his family. But he didn't. He kept pushing, kept touring, kept recording because he believed the message was more important than his comfort, more valuable than his time, more precious than his very life. And now, lying in a hospital bed, with his body destroyed by cancer, he might have survived if he'd made different choices. Bob was sharing the ultimate truth with his son. All the gold and silver in the world, all the success, all the acclaim, all the material achievements, couldn't buy him one more day. Couldn't give him back the time he'd missed with his children. Couldn't purchase the moments he'd sacrificed for his mission. Life is more than gold and silver. It was a confession wrapped in wisdom. A father telling his son, don't make my mistakes. Don't sacrifice your life for success. Don't miss your children's childhood chasing things that can't love you back. Ziggy began to cry. Not quietly, but with deep, wrenching sobs as he realized his father had literally given his life for the music, for the message, for the people. And now, in his final moments, Bob wasn't proud of that sacrifice. He was warning against it. Dad, Ziggy managed through his tears, you changed the world. Bob shook his head weakly. The world keeps turning with or without me. But you and your brothers and sisters, you're my real legacy. Not the albums, not the fame. You. And I missed so much of your lives chasing gold and silver that means nothing now. Bob closed his eyes, exhausted. Ziggy thought he'd fallen asleep, but then his father spoke again, even more quietly. Tell your mother I'm grateful she stood by me. Tell the band to keep playing. Tell the people to keep believing. And Ziggy, yes, Dad? Remember, life is more than gold and silver. Don't sacrifice your life for success. Be present for your children. That's the real treasure. Those were the last coherent words Bob Marley spoke. A few hours later, on May 11th, 1981, at 11:45 a.m., Bob Marley passed away peacefully, his family around him. The legacy lives on. In the decades since that day, Ziggy Marley has honored both his father's musical legacy and his final wisdom. He formed Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers with his siblings, won multiple Grammy Awards, and toured the world carrying forward the message of love and unity. But unlike his father, Ziggy found balance. He made time for his family. He was present for his children in ways Bob couldn't be. He understood that success meant nothing if you weren't alive, truly alive, to enjoy it with the people you love. My father taught me about music, about resistance, about faith, Ziggy often says in interviews. But his final lesson was the most important, that no amount of gold and silver is worth sacrificing your life for. That being present is more valuable than being successful, that your family needs your time, not your achievements. Today, when Ziggy performs his father's songs, he carries both the message and the warning. The music lives on, but so does the wisdom of those final words. Because Bob Marley's last gift to his son wasn't another song or another profound lyrical truth. It was a simple, honest confession from a dying father who wished he'd made different choices. Life is more than gold and silver. 7 words that changed how one son lived, and maybe, just maybe, how we can live too. Every year on May 11th, Ziggy takes a moment to remember, to sit quietly and hear his father's voice one more time, and to remind himself that no achievement, no success, no amount of gold and silver is worth missing a single moment of the real treasure. Life itself, lived fully with the people we love. If this story moves you, if you're sacrificing time with your family for work or success, hear Bob Marley's final warning. Nothing you're chasing is worth more than the life you're living right now. Nothing you're building is more important than being present for those you love. You can't buy back time. You can't purchase moments. You can't pay for one more day with your children. Bob Marley learned this truth too late, but he made sure his son learned it in time. And maybe, just maybe, we can learn it too. Life is more than gold and silver.